Because the video you're watching is linear, it has a definitive beginning and end. Except it doesn't have to. It could be cyclical. You could right-click and set this video to play on auto loop forever, but I have no idea why you would want to. What if all videos were automatically set to start off on a loop, and you had to right-click to make it stop? I think some creators would have fun playing around with the implications of that. When you believe there is neither beginning nor end, it changes the way you think about things. The very idea of an apocalypse is founded on linear time, that there is a beginning and an end. But that is not how people have always thought about time. The Greek philosopher Aristotle in the 4th century BCE wrote a book called, in English, Physics. He said in it that the material universe has always existed and always would. Fundamentally, the universe never had a beginning. It had always existed more or less like he saw it in his day. Because the world was eternal in the past, never having a single starting point, it would also be eternal in the future. Sure, history would change, cities rising, empires falling, and all that. But it was and would always be subject to the same fundamental forces. In more modern physics, the idea of the universe being unchanging and eternally existing is called the steady state. We've all heard in school, matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it can only change forms. In other words, the universe isn't going anywhere. It will always be as it has always been. Well, when you have a cosmological view like that, there isn't much room for an apocalypse, is there? There can be, however, attempts to escape the world. That is, for example, what Buddhism attempts to do. Achieving nirvana means escaping from the infinite cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and reuniting with something outside the world. While not an apocalypse in the Christian sense, this is an idea that I hope to return to in another video. But for the present, I simply want to highlight that the major difference is in focus. Buddhism seeks individual escape from endless cycles. The universe itself, however, will repeat forever. Borrowing some ideas from Buddhism, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in the 19th century about something known as eternal recurrence. This is the idea that not only will the world go on forever without much change, and not only will humans be reborn to live another life, but we will return to live out the exact same life and make the same decisions we are right now. Think of it like the movie Groundhog Day, only there is no Bill Murray. We are all living the same day over and over again without realizing it, and we will do so forever. Nietzsche thought that this would be mind-breaking for some people, but that true peace would come when one accepted that every decision would be an eternal one. That is, one should make every choice worthy of being repeated over and over again. Nietzsche did not think escape was possible, as Buddha taught, but he did think we could find some degree of satisfaction as we looped ourselves. But in any case, Nietzsche did not believe that there would ever be an apocalypse to break the cycle. Well, that is cyclical time, or at least a few ways it has been conceived. There is, of course, the seasonal calendar. But what about linear time? Well, that's what I think most of us intuitively imagine. Our calendar goes up, and we have no expectation of ever getting back to the year 1 again. There have been many calendars throughout history that reset after a while. Places with monarchies, for example, tend to speak of the year of the king's rule, and only if you add all of them together can you figure out when an event took place in the distant past. Our calendar is very linear. Many people around the world use the AD or Anno Domini system. Even those who do not religiously support the idea that we live in the year of our Lord 2023. But the AD calendar itself is based on an earlier model, the Anno Mundi system, which gave the date as in the year of the world. AM reckoning tried to calculate how long it had been since the creation of the world by God taking the book of Genesis as a source. One of the reasons the AM system was dropped and the AD system used, which has morphed into the secular CE or Common Era system we use today, was, according to scholar Richard Landis, because people were looking at the dates and fearing the end was getting closer. Perhaps we will discuss that change at another time. But the key point is this. Because there was a Genesis, a beginning, an apocalypse, an ending, was conceivable in both religious and cosmic terms. This might seem strange, but the Big Bang Theory was originally accused of being Christian dogma masquerading as science. Throughout the 19th century, the steady-state theory, the idea that the universe always was and always would be, was the prominent scientific model. When there developed the idea that there was a moment when time itself began and when everything in the universe emerged into existence, an idea first put forward in the scientific community in 1927 by a Belgian Catholic priest named Georges Lemaitre, the thought was seen at first as laughable by steady-state proponents. Lemaitre, pictured here, he's the one with the collar, didn't call it the Big Bang. That name was invented by a critic who believed in the steady-state theory. He called Lemaitre's theory the Big Bang, in part because he thought it sounded too much like the creation story from Genesis. And yet, that is popularly the most widespread understanding of the origins of the universe today. And with it has come the theory of the Big Crunch, that one day the universe will reverse, fall into itself, and collapse back into the same infinitely small, infinitely dense singularity that existed at the Big Bang about 13 billion years ago. To be sure, scientists still debate the origins of the final fate of the universe. The steady-state theory is no longer mainstream, but it is the nature of science to oscillate as different ideas are tested. For now, most accept that there was a beginning, and, as such, there will be an end, too, whether by the Big Crunch or the heat death of the universe. As Robert Frost wrote, "Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice." But time is a tricky thing. Some things happen only once. Some things happen millions of times a second. As much as people might be enticed by the idea of endless repetition, I suspect most of us quietly agree with the Irish poet William Butler Yeats. In a poem called The Second Coming, because of course that's the name of it, Yeats writes that cyclical time breaks eventually. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Well, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, this is the end. Unless you have set this to loop. Because the video you are watching is linear, it has a definitive beginning and end. Except it doesn't have to. It could be cyclical.